I don't think her friends are doing them any favours by making a statement like that, by saying that they single-handedly have made a difference to the royal family. And I want to say I like Meghan and Harry very much, and I do think they brought a breath of fresh air. However, another friend of hers, Gina, is saying that Meghan was naive and should never have married Harry. You know, people like these friends you really don't need at all. But going back to the documentary at the weekend, and I watched it twice, saw it by myself first of all, and then with my husband. And at the time, I kept saying to him, they're going to regret saying this because I think they did a wonderful job in Africa. It was a really good trip. Then they took the shine off it for me completely by announcing they were going to go for the press. They were going to sue the press. They could have waited till they got home if they wanted to do that. So I just thought bad timing. And I'm going to use this word timing all the time because and I have great empathy for Meghan having had her baby, and Stacey, you talk about being tired and up all night with the baby. I've got empathy with that and great empathy for the public jobs that they have to do. But I don't think a documentary is the right place to talk about that.
Where is the right place, though?
Well, no, but hang on a second. It's against the background of having met a lot of underprivileged people in Africa, and then all of a sudden, Meghan's talking about the strain and the stress, and people are saying, in accusation, you've got, you've got nannies, you've got support, you've got a rich life, and we all know about having babies and being, not you, Dan, sorry, and being up through the night. But you know what I'm saying? We all know about that, and I have great empathy for Harry, having lost his mum for obvious reasons. But I just feel that if he could get better counselling and a better sort of understanding from different people than spreading it to the world through documentaries. I think strongly about that,
actually. I'm always blown away by people thinking that if you have privilege and a life that is a very privileged one, that you don't necessarily have the same emotions as everyone else. I look at them as new parents and I think that who's to say that they're not struggling mentally?
Well, I understand it.
But I also think that for so long it has been the will of us to say, get a stiff upper lip, put on your brave face and wipe it under the carpet. And I think for so long that has damaged us as a society. I think that actually people moving out, breaking away from that and saying, do you know what, I'm not going to have a stiff upper lip, I'm going to be entirely honest about the way...
I'm talking about where they release that. I'm talking about timing and where.
They don't always have a choice. I think that if they were away on a trip in Africa and the press decided, well, if they're going to take us to court, let's let everybody know about it, they don't always have the power to say as and when things release and when they break.
Well, I love this idea of the stiff upper lip because I think what we're talking about is resilience, that, my generation and Gloria, we do think if you've got something bad going on, you don't necessarily want to share it with the world, or if you've got problems, you tend to share them with the closest people to you. So when I saw that thing with Harry, I was gobsmacked. And I'm gobsmacked now that they think that they are modernising the monarchy, because I think the monarchy isn't something that necessarily needs to be modernised, like updating your washing machine or the latest app on your phone. The bottom line about the monarchy is it has this very mysterious job of holding the country together in times of crisis, of balancing Parliament and all the different prime ministers, and God knows what's going on at the moment.
They don't think they're modernising the royal family. People have said that about them. They're not going around going, look at us.
Well, it seems to be people from their camp, and they do seem to be surrounded by a lot of PR people who are very good at putting their point of view. But I'll say one thing. I do feel that Meghan, who has got a very young child, is in a difficult position and is probably unused to the attention, even though she was an actress and everything else. But I think another thing, that purple dress she had on at the Royal Albert Hall.
Oh, here it comes, folks.
That is the dress that she wore when she was 6 months pregnant with Archie. And in the Australian press at the moment, a few days ago, she's on the front page of one of the biggest women's magazines, and they're saying that she's pregnant. And the British media are starting to print rumours like that as well.
I think even that is just atrocious. Hold on a second. Even if she is pregnant, yes. I think it's atrocious to think that you can just bat those things about. You don't know what her situation is, whether everything's safe, whether everything's well.
I know what you're saying, Stacey, but they've always done that. The royals can't go anywhere without people doing that.
Thank God that they're going, actually, I'm going to challenge that, because I don't think it's right. And actually, I'm going to...
So, Stacey, you think that the British public should support the monarchy, and the monarchy are allowed to more or less do what they like, because that's what you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, actually, I think that the stiff upper lip hasn't worked for a very long time. I think that male suicide is a problem.
Sometimes
I think mental health is a huge problem in our society, and that stiff upper lip hasn't got us anywhere.
I think it's a big jump from Meghan saying she's finding it hard to cope to suicide, and I don't think you necessarily...
I don't think it is a big jump. I think it can quickly go from I'm struggling a bit here to I'm not getting the right help and I'm not speaking to the right people.
With all the will in the world, there are plenty of young women in this country who are bringing, you know, women on low incomes with small babies who are probably in very difficult circumstances, and they look at this woman who wears designer clothes and really has a lot of help and support, and they're thinking, well, your troubles are not my troubles.
That's totally unfair. I had a child at 19 with absolutely no support and no money and nothing. Couldn't afford anything for my child. I had to get milk vouchers, the lot. I've had 2 children since then, outside of that, in a much more comfortable position, in a much more privileged position, but I can honestly tell you that I've felt the same feelings each time. I have struggled with my mental health equally each time, regardless of my circumstances.
But Stacey, you weren't talking about it on a national
but I
documentary.
would. If I thought it helped other people, and if I thought that it would make somebody say, actually, I need to have a look at myself and I need to speak to people and I need to find help, then I would.
Well, I believe that the
No,
royal
but
family...
aren't they saying that it's that they're sick of what the papers are printing, aren't they? They are sick of it. If I was in their position, I would go, listen, we don't want to deal with this anymore, so we need to take ourselves away for 2 or 3 months and deal with all of this in private on our own because you're just spouting rubbish about us. But what I'm saying is if they're going to go out there and they're going to talk to the press like they did in that documentary, we know what the press are like. They're going to...
reply.
Could I just give you a
talking about them for a really long time, and I think they were just having their right of reply and just being open.
But they know what the press are like.
Scenario, though, take it away from Meghan for a second. When Harry talked about the rift, you know, between... he was asked about the rift between him and William. I listened very carefully. What he said was, well, we don't see each other as much as we used to. We're on different paths because we've got children and we're busy and we're doing different things. I would love to see my brother more often. All families go on a different path. Children, schools, you know, different things to do. And now the papers, of course, to go back on Colin's point, have absolutely escalated that and exaggerated it so that William is saying this is wrong.
But that comes back to what you were saying earlier and what Colleen was saying. Once you engage with the press and start even giving out that kind of nugget of information, it is going to get picked over.
If you give them nothing, they're going to make it up anyway. You know this, Janet. If you give them
but we won't believe it.
Well, I'm a member of the press, so I can't sit here. I'm a, you know, a former newspaper editor and national newspaper columnist, and I'm not going to allow the British press to be just slagged off. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said that in daytime television, but slandered.
You know that if they say absolutely nothing, they will write a story anyway, whether it's what she wears, what she looks like.
But by the way, Prince Charles and Camilla, they're not giving out statements every day about how they feel when they get up in the morning and whether they're doing mindfulness and everything else. I mean, they're just getting on with it.
But maybe that was right for when they were in power.
But do you think that talking about it maybe they're actually solving it?
It's your future king.
I mean, what do you all want for lunch? Because I can just nip out for a sandwich. Told you it was going to take all day.